So today we're looking at the perfect solo base, the Wizard Tower. A compact and defendable base with an incredibly easy starter and no complicated gimmicks. Expanded in stages to fit your wipe style, this base is designed not to waste your time or resources. Whether it's making it home from your loot run and needing that quick depot, or it's respawning and getting back out there to chase down your kit, this base won't leave you fumbling around, as everything you need is quickly accessible without giving up the security. And when those raiders eventually come knocking, you'll be ready. With no easy raid path and 360 degrees of defendable vision around your base, a raider might want to think twice before attempting to come in. And here we have it, the Wizard Tower. While not quite in its final form, I'll go over expanding the base later in the video. For now, this is probably my favorite point of the base, with just enough security that I don't have to worry. Coming inside through your standard airlock, we're greeted with some garage doors and a ladder hatch above. Opening up all that, we can see that we've now created an additional airlock using this ladder hatch, which is great for that online defense. Over here, we've got a bedroom, which is going to have 2 separated lockers, and in here you can easily fit 3 bags, but a bed is my preference. On the left side here, we've got our drop box, tools, and whatever else you might need, as well as your repair bench. And let's go upstairs first. Coming upstairs is probably one of my favorite aspects of the base. We've got this nice little shooting floor right here, which gives us a lot of degrees of vision around the area, depending on where you're trying to hit. Nice coverage up here, the ability to stand shoot from here, get some nice angles. It really does give you that vision all around. As well, opening up this garage door, we can see we've got additional storage hidden away up here. While not the most secure, it is good for any dump storage that you might have. Coming downstairs, we drop into another drop box and a metal wall with a garage door. Opening up these circle of garage doors, we'll make our way around. And when you get here, we reveal that on this side, we have our tier 3. This would mean that raiding through this wall would be even harder, as they would also have to blow up the tier 3 to get any further. Opening this finally, we reveal RTC. Over here, just an electricity room, which is great for powering any turrets you might want to use. All in all, because of this open concept, getting around, cooking things, and crafting is incredibly easy while you're online, and the cost to raid it when you're not is quite hefty. But of course, now that I've shown you around, let's show you how to build it. Today's base features a nice and easy starter to get down, starting with as little as 1 triangle, but in an ideal situation, you're gonna build out at least 3. Next, from here, we can go ahead and place our TC down, shoving that nice and tight into that corner. Then we can go ahead and close this off and get a double door down. For the entirety of the interior of this base, you're going to want to use double doors. It's going to make your movement a lot easier, and it's honestly good to swap them out for garage doors as soon as you can. And the reason we tucked that TC in the corner is this furnace right here, providing a little bit of extra space saving measures, as well as securing our most valuable of cooked resources. Now, while you are probably only going to be using double doors, in order to save myself having to pick up all the boxes that you'd have to do to swap them, I'm going to start using garage doors now. For this build, we are going to be hugging this tier 2 right up against this wall, providing a little bit of extra security. When the tier 3 is there, it'll provide a lot more. Next, we're going to go ahead and slap a box down, which is going to go right here against this wall. And then we're basically ready to go farm out some resources. Of course, this is a very tight space and not ideal for most players for too long. Thankfully, the expansion on this base is pretty easy. Moving into finishing the first floor, we simply come out and round out a circle. With that done, you're going to have a circle with the peak over here, and we're going to finalize this by changing this into more of a triangle shape. Building 1 piece here and 1 piece here. At this point, you can go ahead and surround this entirely with walls. And we're going to be closing off everything except for this triangle here. At the back here, you're going to have choices to make with either windows or double doors, but I do prefer this configuration here. In here, we're going to place 3 more furnaces. And right here, if you don't have ladder hatches yet, you could just use a furnace as a temporary jump up. Again, for the interior here, you're going to want to use entirely double doors and garage doors, as especially when you're online and in your base, movement is a lot easier. Now with your base looking something like this, we're ready to fill out the first floor. Now over here is going to depend on you. If you're planning on doing electrical, this is where I put my electrical systems. Nicely tucked away in this corner, it's going to have some nice honeycombing later. But before I'd go too much further, basically everything here should eventually get upgraded to metal. That's going to make things a lot more secure of a core, and it's going to make a lot more sense once we start honeycombing. Now, of course, you absolutely don't need to be living in a metal triangle, and you could stop at stone for now without too much of a hassle. But in the end of it, this is how I would upgrade this core, with possibly making this area here entirely high qual when I have the resources. But from here, expansion is actually pretty simple. First, let's get this floor filled out. Now, obviously, there are other ways to place your boxes, and if you're more worried about how they might be able to loot multiple boxes through your garage doors, that could be a factor in how you place things. But personally, I prefer to make sure that I've got easy movement as well as easy crafting. I don't like to have to really go from room to room to be able to loot everything, and this open concept makes things a lot easier for me. Coming upstairs, we've still got a little bit of work ahead of us. We haven't really done our jump up, we haven't done anything with our second floor, so let's get to it. Jumping down from here, we're gonna go to our right, and we're gonna build a foundation and a wall. Go ahead and upgrade those, and then we're gonna put a reversed roof piece right here. This is gonna give us a jump up to this second floor, and from this point we need to worry about honeycombing the rest of the base. I know it doesn't seem like an important step, but it's gonna help us build out our second floor as well. So coming around, we're gonna add a triangle to everything, just all the way around. There's triangles everywhere. And once that's all done, we can go ahead and upgrade them all to stone and then add the walls. And in the end, you'll have something that looks like this. With your nice little metal triangle, which functions as a circle interior surrounded entirely by honeycomb, we can go ahead and add our floor pieces all to those. And with those all sealed up, we can add our front door. And here's where things get a little wonky, because yes, we are doing a circle all around, but right here we're gonna jut out. That's because it's gonna make things a lot easier for us later, and you just want this wall facing that way. Come over here and seal this in, and then add roof pieces. Leave just this one open right here in front of your door, and this will be another ladder hatch. Inside here, you can upgrade this to metal, and I honestly would recommend upgrading this section to metal as well, even though it is going to be exposed. The fact is, having this as metal exposed on the outside might actually cause someone to raid in through here, which would actually be one of the furthest raid paths to your TC. And then we're gonna stick with the same method of just adding garage doors everywhere except right here, adding in a shelf instead. Go ahead and upgrade these and fill those out, and I'll show you what you're doing with this room back here. With all your garage doors opened up and your base exposed, let's get a bedroom down. Coming back here, we're gonna place 2 lockers, one on each side, separated nicely by garage doors, making things a lot harder for a raider. And then in the middle, not separated, we're adding a box. In front of that, we add a bed or several bags. Really, it'll depend on who you're playing with, how deep your team is. I really like having a bed in a base. The most annoying part is when you spawn in, if you have everything closed up, you only really have access to this box. But being able to orient yourself with a bed, you'd quickly be able to grab your kit, and head on out. This is designed so that you don't spend too much time fumbling in your base, and you can go recover anything if you've died. With a nice respawn room on the right of our door, it only makes sense that on the left we have all the utility we can need. With our drop box space, a repair bench, and a couple smalls underneath, we got plenty of room for tools, clothes, or guns, or whatever else you might need. Of course, you're not too far from going downstairs and dropping off even more, so it's really nice to have everything so close together. When you're crafting, organizing, and all that stuff as a solo, you really don't want to have to be going from one side of your base to another. Of course, we're still not quite done. While we do have a nice base built already, it's still a little bit lacking. Missing that upstairs security and a little more. Let's keep going. Working on the third floor, we're going to come over here and add half walls all around the base, creating a nice little circle, ignoring anything that is honeycomb, as we'll take care of that later. We're then going to add another half wall here, and then door frames all around the other spots. From here, we can add the low walls all around. And then we're going to jump up here and build our way all around here. Make sure you leave that spot open above your ladder hatch, and then jump up again. From here, we're going to add frames all the way around. And on top of those frames, we're going to add our roof pieces. Once that's done, we're going to add our small boxes. And these are going to be just to give us those amazing peaks that we're going to need to defend our base. Placing one on each side. As you can see, that gives us a slightly different angle. Whether you're trying to shoot somebody on the hills or you're trying to shoot someone real up and close to your base. As well, we can jump up here for some even more angles in that 360 view. Of course, how high you build your base is going to determine how far you can see around. And then we're coming down here. And this is actually going to function as additional storage. Throwing a box here, here, and then working our way around. Now, one thing to note is that during that entire process, you could put garage doors in all of the spots. Though I do recommend at least putting one in this slot so that you can close off this completely. But you could also fill the rest of the slots at the cost of movement up here. As with the garage doors and the rollers in particular, it does become a little harder to get up to this section. For that reason, I do only recommend using this garage door, but that is going to help protect your loot down here. While I wouldn't store anything too valuable up here, it is a nice additional drop spot for any miscellaneous storage items. From this point outside, you've got a bit of a wizard's tower. It's definitely an odd build and definitely not complete, but finishing it off is not too difficult. Coming around and filling in the rest of your honeycomb pieces, you're going to want to cover up these metal parts. Finishing off your triangle around. And then I would also recommend covering these. Now here's where things get a little complicated, because you're going to want to decide what you're doing for your expansion. From this point, even though you do have some nice peaks to defend your base, it's still not quite complete. And while we do have a nice little wizard's tower that most people would probably try to avoid, we can deter people a little more. To do so, we would add some turrets. And while this is probably my favorite spot to add a turret to, as it would give you that front door protection, especially with this nice little extra ramp added in, you could add them all the way around. It really comes down to how much you're worried about the extra security, and honestly, I would rather fill in these honeycomb pieces so that I can actually block off access to these loot rooms. If you are planning on using more than one turret, you might struggle with solar panels. And while solar panels can fit very nicely all around the base, Windmills, not so much, but it's actually a lot easier than you might think. Simply building up with the triangles on your left and right side, at least 5 or 6 up, we can build both in the front and the back of the base. With plenty of room for 1 or even 2 windmills, it wouldn't be too hard to come up here, splitting them off in different directions so that you've got room, and of course, placing your windmills. With the ability to place windmills on this base, with 2 windmills, you should really never want for more on this base. And we could take things a step further than just turret power. If you've been pissing people off and making enemies all around the map, this can be a useful addition. With room for extra SAM sites and extra aerial defense, this is going to actually do a number on anyone trying to MLRS your base. And while it might not seem like a great addition, the protection that it offers is well worth it late game. And it does that without even really blocking off your view. Of course, absolutely not a necessary addition. None of this electricity is actually needed unless you're planning on going into the turrets and extra air defenses. Functioning perfectly fine without any electricity, this base is a tough one to raid. While not impossible, it's certainly going to give you a much better edge, especially as a solo or small group. And that's it. With an incredibly cheap starting cost and a really cheap overall upkeep, this base is more than manageable for a solo. And since you'll be able to defend yourself very nicely, most people will probably just leave you alone. If you prefer your bases to have a bunker to make things even harder for a raider, check out the base on the left, which uses the God Bunker to make an incredibly secure base. Or if you'd rather something a little more stealthy, check out my underground base design by clicking the video on the right.